What up, guys, and welcome to the Flopbuster Movie Channel. I'm Tony, and today I'm going to give you my ranking of the entire MCU movie run. All 28 films. I'm going to exclude the TV shows just because Ms. Marvel's still in the air, and I'm not sure how I would rank all of them. You know, it's very hard to throw in shows, even though they're crucial to the Marvel story at large. I'm going to take them out for this portion. So this is my 28th film MCU ranking. Now, my ranking may be different than yours, and that's okay. Everybody loves what they love. I don't have too many hot takes on the MCU. I pretty much love everything in the catalog, so most of these movies go from enjoyed to, like, really enjoyed. Without further ado, let's get this started. I am so pumped to finally talk Marvel on this channel. As always, guys, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, and tune in for the main show every Thursday. We really appreciate it, and I just want to give a heartfelt thank you to everybody that's been watching this, and without further ado, let's get things started. Coming in at number 28 is a film that kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. This is a movie that I didn't really like upon initial release, and I thought it was poorly mishandled, kind of ugly to look at, and it has some of the worst villains in the MCU. It's Thor: The Dark World. I don't think it's a flat-out bad movie, but I think it's a lazy film. And it's also one of the only movies on this list that I'm like, I never really need to see again. Don't get me wrong, Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston are great, but I think that the rest of the movie completely falls flat. At number 27 is going to be The Eternals. This is one that kind of frustrates me a bit because it's beautiful to look at, it's wonderfully directed, I love the way the characters look and feel, the actors are great, the visuals are outstanding, but I think the story suffers. It's not a lazy film at all. It's a movie that swings for the fences. I think there's some really cool standout moments, but for the most part, it's kind of a dud in the MCU, and it's a shame because this is the movie that should have been something that is just grandstanding and epic and totally different. It is, and I think it'll work for some people, but for me, it just doesn't work. Coming in at number 26 is Iron Man 2. Some people really find this movie to be a real shitbox. Not me. I think it's fine, and I think it's a fine sequel, albeit maybe a little too goofy and by the numbers. We do get Sam Rockwell in here, who was one of the original choices on the shortlist for Iron Man. Iron Man 2 also had a really short window in terms of getting things done. They had just under 2 years to deliver this, and you can really show on screen sometimes. At number 25 is going to be Captain Marvel. A serviceable and fun entry in the MCU, but nothing really more than that. I think Brie is fantastic in the role. I thought she was having a ton of fun, and I really liked that character. I think Sam Jackson is also really cool in the role, but I think the villains are really forgettable, and even the visuals and the directing standpoint of it all are just okay. Which says a lot because these directors did another film called Mississippi Grind, which I highly recommend. It's a very good character study, but for me the movie is good, some elements fall flat. So number 24 is going to be The Incredible Hulk starring Edward Norton. I really like this movie. I know it gets some flack, some people forget about it, but I think there's great character moments. There's so many cool callbacks to the TV series. I think Edward Norton really understood the Bruce Banner role, and it has one of the best fight scenes ever in the MCU between Abomination and Hulk. Some great fan service moments. Maybe some of the editing can be a little wonky, and some of the CGI looks a little but for the most part, I really like this one. Coming in at number 23 is Black Widow. This is a movie that I think disappointed a lot of people because they thought it would be more than what it is, and what it is, just this very simple story, a prequel about Natasha, her family. I think Florence Pugh is the real star of this movie. David Harbour is awesome and so funny and charming. I really liked him. Rachel Weisz is also great in this. Taskmaster is a bit of a dud, but for the most part, I think this is a solid solo entry in the MCU. Avengers: Age of Ultron. This is a film that was highly, highly anticipated. Ultron's such a big character, very complex. Did they nail it? I thought they did, but I also think what holds this film back is that it's coming right off the heels of the first Avengers movie, which Joss Whedon completely knocked out of the park. It's one of the biggest and best blockbusters ever made. And Age of Ultron is just good. It's got solid character work. There's great interaction. We know Joss is great at that. He's always been good at banter, interaction, characters going against each other. And I think a lot of the world building is great as well. I like the addition of Wanda. I like all that stuff. But I also think we've seen it better, we've seen it done better in the first movie, and I think that's where this movie kind of falls short. Some things can be a bit stale. Good, but we've seen it all. At 21, we're going to have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This is a movie that everybody's probably going to be like, oh, here we go, this is so low on the list. It is a little lower on the list, but again, I reiterate that I love to like most of these movies, and I really enjoyed Shang-Chi. I thought the martial arts was fantastic. The bus scene is one of the best scenes in the MCU. It's so reminiscent of early Jackie Chan films like Police Story 2, Rumble in the Bronx. I love those aspects of this film. Tony Leung is a great, great villain. But to me, the moments that don't work in this movie are the ending. I'm really not a fan of the CGI moments. The overall second half isn't as strong as the first half, and I really dug the first half. Doesn't hurt the film in the grand scheme of things. I'm really excited when we get a sequel. I love this character. I love the family that they set up. But for the most part, I think the hand-to-hand combat stuff was mind-blowing and so cool and refreshing in this universe. And the back half was kind of same old, same old. At number 20, we're going to have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is a movie that really split people, right? There's some people that are really pissed off that it wasn't as big and as grand and as crazy as they hoped it would be, or as those rumors told them it would be. And there's others that just like it for how simple and straightforward it is. I found this camp that really liked it for how simple and straightforward it is. I think this is a good movie. Not a great movie. I think some of the writing hurts it, but a good movie overall. I think Sam Raimi does a fantastic job directing and has this whole 90s horror feel. Wanda is a great villain. I do think some of the writing for her brings her back a little bit, suffers, but for the most part, the visuals and the visual gags are great. We have a great cameo by Bruce Campbell in here as Pizza Papa. Overall, I like this one. It's fun, and Deadite Strange, so cool. Zombie Strange is one of the greatest moments in MCU, and it's totally Doctor Strange. At 19, we have Iron Man 3, another controversial pick. Now, even though it stands at number 19, I kind of fucking love this movie. It's a great Christmas film. I love what Shane Black does with the character. He's a perfect fitting with Robert Downey, who is always outstanding in the role as Tony Stark, but we have a great character arc for him. It's got that Shane Black feel that you expect from The Nice Guys, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. This movie feels in line with those. I think they dropped the ball on the Mandarin. It's very funny, although kind of a bit of a backhand to a lot of fans that really wanted the Mandarin from the trailers. But overall, man, I have a lot of fun with this one. There's so many great moments, so many great gags, so many witty lines. I can't deny, I really, really think this is a strong entry in the Iron Man canon. Coming in at number 18 is Thor. 2011's Thor, Kenneth Branagh. This is a solid origin tale, man. It's simple, it's straightforward. The soundtrack is so good. This is some of the best score in the MCU. I wish they used his score way more than what they do. The original Thor score is so good. Loki stands to be a great villain. Tom Hiddleston knocks it out of the park. And I just overall like the goofy, small-scale tone that they set up. At number 17 is going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp. And guys, I really like the Ant-Man movies. They're so small-scale and warm and family-friendly. I think this is a solid sequel with some really witty moments. Not the strongest villain, not something that blows me away, but the heart of the movie is what works. That's what I love about these movies. Peyton Reed understands Ant-Man. He understands the family aspect of it all, which is why he would be my pick for Fantastic Four. Probably not going to happen, but I love these Ant-Man movies. And at number 16 is going to be Spider-Man Far From Home. A solid, but not the best entry in MCU's Spider-Man saga. I think it is very good. Jake Gyllenhaal is awesome as Mysterio, but it kind of does fall back into diminishing returns a bit, right? There's another villain who's pissed off at Tony Stark, and now they're going to take it out on Peter Parker. Tom Holland is great as always. The kids are awesome. I love the European vacation tone that they set up. And the third act is awesome. It's mind-blowing, great Spider-Man action. At number 15, we're going to have Ant-Man from 2015. This movie was in a lot of production trouble. Edgar Wright was supposed to make it. He did not make it. We got Peyton Reed directing, and I think a lot of people were writing this movie off, and they were wrong to, because this is a really fun film. I think Ant-Man nails that sort of crime heist element it's going for. Paul Rudd is so charming. He's great in everything. I love this guy so much. Him and Michael Douglas have great passing the baton scenes. I really like Hope in this. I think the villain is solid. It's a little bit of a retread of Iron Man, but that's fine. To me, the moments that work in this movie are the heart, the comedy, and the characters. I love the visual gags. Love Peyton Reed directing this once again. 14, we're going to have Scott Derrickson's Doctor Strange, the original. This is a great film. It's a great origin tale. It's quick, it's to the point, it's just under 2 hours, and gives you everything you need about the mythology, the character development, and everything there is to know about the horror, the magical element of Doctor Strange. And I really enjoy this one. Solid villain, not one of the best, but solid overall. And the ending battle is so cool. I love the way Strange is portrayed here. The visuals are awesome. It reminds me of Inception a bit. And again, this is just a really solid origin tale in the MCU canon. Number 13 is one of the first films in the Russo brothers' run of Marvel. It's Captain America the Winter Soldier, which is a incredibly solid sequel to the first Captain America. It goes for more of a political thriller tone. We add in Robert Redford. We have some great villains in there. The back and forth between the Winter Soldier and Cap is so good. I love the scenes with Natasha and Cap as well. You have sort of this buddy comedy thing going on. The entry of Anthony Mackie. Love this film. The action is some of the best in the MCU. The highway scene is a high point. So well done, so well choreographed. Really, really dig this one. That's Captain America, the Winter Soldier. At number 12, we're going to have another Russo brothers entry. It's Captain America Civil War. Civil War is a tough storyline to throw into the MCU. It's a big storyline in the comics. This is something that's hard to pull off, and they pull it off with ease. This is a great film. I think the battles between the heroes is so well done. I think introducing Black Panther and Peter Parker, that's a feat on its own. You managed to introduce two new characters in the MCU and do it easily. Like, it was so well done and got me so pumped for their solo movies. But what really works in this is the heart. The battle. The battle between Cap and Tony. Something that you don't want to see. It's heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking, but it works so well. Number 11, we're going to have Taika Waititi's Thor Ragnarok. Now, this is kind of a reboot of Thor in a way, you know? It's kind of going back to basics, but also, how can we recalibrate the tone and do something different with this character? And Taika shoots for his brand of humor. He goes for, visually, something out of a John Carpenter 80s adventure, like Big Trouble in Little China. We have Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster. This movie is very, very fun. It's super incredibly fun. The music choices are awesome. Cate Blanchett is great. And, I mean, Led Zeppelin. Come on. And number 10 is a movie that maybe might shock you come high on the list, but I think for me, it's so, so good and heartfelt and funny. It's Captain America, the First Avenger. What I love about this movie is the pulp tone. It reminds me of The Rocketeer. The reason why is Joe Johnston, who directed that movie, directs this. And I just think it has its own visual style. It reminds me of Indiana Jones. Love what they do with Cap. That first hour is so heartfelt and warm. I love the message behind it. Captain America, the First Avenger is a movie I can throw on, and I always have a good time with it. Alright, at number 9, it's Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, I really like the John Hughes tone they set up with this. I know it doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody likes the Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man. I really do. I think he brings a certain element of charisma and innocence that I like about the role. And I love the kids in this. Michael Keaton as the Vulture is A+. Perfect. And also, the interaction in the car between the two is a highlight of the entire MCU. It's so good seeing them go back and forth. It's so tense and chilling. I really love this movie. It's a great Spider-Man flick, in my opinion. And number 8 is Ryan Coogler's Black Panther. I was so excited to see him tackle this. Ryan Coogler is one of the best directors working right now with the Creed movies and with this. He brings this grand element to it. He brings, like, things that you would see in The Lion King or The Godfather to the MCU. Sure, it's got a lot of CGI battles and stuff, but what really works about this movie is the mythology, the characters, the father and son elements, and that score is iconic. Number 7 is going to be Spider-Man No Way Home. What more can you say that the internet hasn't said about this? This movie has been theorized and talked about to no end for the past 2.5 years or so, right? Ever since the word on the street was it was a multiverse movie with the other Spider-Man. This movie works. It shouldn't work, but it works. I think this is a high point of John Watts doing Spider-Man in the MCU. I thought the Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe coming back, it's so iconic and it works, and he doesn't have to wear that mask this time. He can actually act, and he's so charming and scary. That stuff works. I love Alfred Molina, but come on, Toby coming back, all of those things are great fan service, but at the end of the day, this was a movie about Spider-Man becoming Spider-Man. No matter what, no Avengers, no Tony Stark. Who can help Spider-Man? Who can make him grow? Who can make the tough decision? And that's Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Those are the scenes that kind of push it over the top where you go, yeah, he's Spider-Man. This works. So, Spider-Man No Way Home. I really enjoy this one. Number 7. Number 6 is a movie that I adore. It's one that kind of blew everybody away on release. It's James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, I guess you could call it. This movie blew my socks off because I knew the Guardians and I liked them in the comic books, but I never really read their own run up until the rebooted run, back when this movie was coming out too. But I really enjoy this movie. It's all about character work. The soundtrack is an added bonus, but it's about character work, which is what Gunn is good at. He provides crude humor, character growth, emotion, all those things you love about the MCU are in this. And also, I think Ronan is a solid villain. I think he works very well as opposed to the goofy group of ragtag heroes we have. We have somebody that's so, like, stoic, and it adds to that battle at the end that makes it so funny. This movie is so great. I love the first Guardians of the Galaxy. We're entering the top 5, guys, and at number 5 is another Russo brothers film, Avengers Endgame. This is a great closing chapter to the Infinity Saga. It's 3 hours that fly by like that. Seeing it with a crowd just made my whole week. There's scenes that make you weep, make you tear, make you cheer. This is a great comic book film with characters that shouldn't mesh well because there's so many, but they managed to make it work. I love the ending, the arc that they set up for Cap and the way they send him off. Tony Stark, these things have been building for years, works so well. Thanos is obviously one of the greatest comic book villains there is. I really, like, what else can you say that hasn't been said before? It's a great film. It's a great closing chapter. Number 4 is Infinity War. Infinity War should not work at all. There's way too many characters, but the Russos pull it off like nothing. And what's so good is that they had their test run. They did The Winter Soldier. They did Civil War. So doing Infinity War makes sense for them and for them as directors because they can pull it off with all these characters. The movie jumps around to different areas of the globe, it jumps to space, everything works. It's the Empire Strikes Back of this franchise. And that's what I love about it. Seeing it in the theater with that audience, everybody was on the edge of their seat. Nobody could believe they ended the movie in that way. And at that moment in time, you thought the Avengers were fucked. That's the beauty of it. It works so well, and Thanos does not play around. He establishes that he's here, he's the big bad that we've been worried about. I love this movie. Okay, this is my controversial pick at number 3. This is a movie that I see online get some hate. Overall, it's got good critical reception, I would say, but it's a film that has its detractors, but anybody that knows me knows that this is one of my favorite comic book films ever, and it's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This does everything I love about the first one, but bigger and better, while also being intimate. It's an intimate hangout character study. It still has the crude humor. It still has the action beats. But I love Kurt Russell as the villain. I love the story they set up with Star-Lord. The mythology. Yondu. Everything works. I don't need big universe-building things. What I love about these movies are the characters. Give me that. And there's about 5 or 6 scenes that play on a repeat in my head. I love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I know it's a controversial pick to be super, super high, but it's one of my favorite superhero films. Alright, at number 2, guys, it's The Avengers 2012. This is a film that I thought would never get made. I've been obsessed with Marvel Comics for as long as I can remember, since my uncle gave me an issue of Iron Man when I was a kid. Reading Wizard magazine, we would read about the fake castings of, fan castings of who can they play, like who's going to be them. And when this movie came out, it was everything I hoped for from a comic book. It's so simple. The banter, Joss Whedon at this point in time was the perfect director to make this movie because he knew how to play with these characters. By the time you get to the ending, it's so earned. It feels like everything you've been waiting for. The fan service works, but what I love about this movie is the heart, the humor, and how timeless it feels. And number one, probably already guessed it, and might be the obvious pick, but it is Iron Man. Iron Man was a movie I was anticipating. I remember watching that leaked trailer online. I loved that character. My mom was a huge fan of Robert Downey, so she was so excited when we went to go see this. And the movie is just perfect comic book filmmaking. Jon Favreau was the absolute perfect directing choice for this. Jeff Bridges is the villain. I love the origin tale. That first half is so intense and so cool. I love Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. knocks it out of the park and makes this character iconic. And number one, it's gotta be Iron Man for me. Anyway, guys, let me know maybe your top 5 or top 10. Write it down in the comments or what you think of the list. I know everybody's got their own opinion and whatnot. There's nothing that's set in stone. But my top picks are the ones that mean something to me in my heart. The movies that I can rewatch and feel something emotionally invested in. And that's why I have the top 3 the way it is. And hopefully, you know, you agree, disagree, let me know in the comments, because I love the MCU. I know some people are getting tired of it, and that's fine. But for me, it's still a well-oiled roller coaster, I guess. Anyway, like I said at the beginning of the episode, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. And tune in for the show every Thursday. We do a live stream talking about the movie news. Gabe and I, Victoria. If you just love movies, come hang out with us. Talk about it. Shoot over a question in the comments. All the big news stories we cover, and then there's reviews throughout the week. So, I'm Tony, this is Flopbuster, and we will see you next time.